What happens when you unleash a Samoan werewolf after weeks of forced exile? Absolute chaos. Jacob Fatu just delivered the most brutal backstage beatdown of 2025, and Drew McIntyre might never be the same. What's up, Suplex Rumble family? If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because we break down the most insane moments in professional wrestling, and trust me, you do not want to miss what we're covering today. Let's rewind for a second. Jacob Fatu, the most dangerous man in WWE, has been serving a suspension for the past 3 weeks. And why? Because this absolute wrecking machine couldn't control his aggression during a backstage altercation that left multiple superstars needing medical attention. But here's the thing about caging an animal: when you finally let it out, it's hungrier than ever. Friday night, Fatu's suspension officially ended. And Drew McIntyre? He made the biggest mistake of his career. The Scottish Warrior decided to cut a promo backstage, running his mouth about how the locker room is finally safe without Fatu around, calling him undisciplined and a liability to the business. Oh, Drew. You can insult a lot of people in this business, but when you disrespect a Samoan warrior with the kind of legacy and pride that Jacob Fatu carries, you better be ready for consequences. And consequences came fast. According to reports from multiple sources backstage, Fatu arrived at the arena approximately 2 hours before the show. He didn't check in with management. He didn't go to his locker room. He had one target, one mission. Drew McIntyre was in the middle of his interview segment with the production crew when suddenly, boom, the door to the media area exploded open. Now, I want to paint this picture for you because eyewitness accounts from backstage personnel have been flooding social media, and this was absolute mayhem. Jacob Fatu charged into that room like a freight train with no brakes. Drew barely had time to turn around before Fatu launched himself at the Scottish Warrior with a devastating running hip attack that sent McIntyre crashing through the interview backdrop. But Fatu wasn't done. Not even close. He grabbed Drew by his hair, and remember, McIntyre is a big man, 6'5", 265 pounds. Fatu deadlifted him like he weighed nothing and launched him face first into the catering table. Food went everywhere. Production equipment shattered. Security tried to intervene, and here's where it gets crazy. Fatu fought off 4 security guards like they were trainees. 1 super kick, 2 super kicks, a spinning back elbow that left one guard absolutely flattened. The backstage area turned into a war zone. Fatu dragged McIntyre through the corridor, slamming him into walls, equipment crates, and at one point, and I'm not making this up, he moonsaulted off a production crate onto Drew as the Scottish Warrior tried to crawl away. A 300-pound man executing a moonsault in a backstage hallway. The athleticism, the violence, the sheer intensity of Jacob Fatu's rage was unlike anything we've seen in recent memory. Multiple superstars came out of their locker rooms to see what was happening. Reports say that even veteran wrestlers were standing back, knowing better than to get between Fatu and his target. Some witnesses claim they heard Fatu shouting in Samoan during the assault, which, if you know anything about Samoan wrestling culture, means this wasn't just a beatdown, this was personal. This was about respect. This was about family honor. The carnage finally ended when Fatu hoisted McIntyre up and delivered a devastating Samoan drop on, to get this, a stack of steel chairs that were being stored for the show. The impact echoed through the entire backstage area. Medical personnel rushed to the scene as Fatu stood over Drew's fallen body, chest heaving, eyes wild, looking like he was ready for round 2. So what happened next? WWE officials, led by a high-ranking executive, finally convinced Fatu to leave the area. And here's what's interesting: multiple reports suggest that while officials were furious about the destruction and the danger, there's a certain level of understanding about Fatu's motivation. Drew McIntyre was transported to a local medical facility for evaluation. Early reports suggest he's dealing with potential bruised ribs, a possible concussion, and various cuts and contusions. The Scottish Warrior has been in wars before, but this might be the most vicious assault he's ever endured. Now, let's talk about what this means for WWE programming going forward. First, there's no way this ends here. Drew McIntyre is one of the toughest competitors in WWE history. He's not going to take this lying down literally or figuratively. When he recovers, the retaliation is going to be nuclear. Second, Jacob Fatu has now put the entire locker room on notice. This man just proved that his suspension taught him nothing about restraint. If anything, he came back more dangerous, more violent, more unpredictable than ever before. The WWE universe is already buzzing with possibilities. Will this lead to a grudge match at the next premium live event? Probably. Could we see some kind of unsanctioned fight where anything goes? Almost certainly. Is there any chance these two can coexist in the same building without trying to destroy each other? Absolutely not. Social media has been exploding since footage and photos started leaking from backstage. Fans are divided. Some are calling Fatu unprofessional and dangerous, while others are saying Drew had it coming for disrespecting a warrior of Fatu's caliber. One thing everyone agrees on: this is the kind of real, visceral, intense rivalry that makes professional wrestling must-see television. Let's put this in perspective for a moment. Backstage altercations are nothing new in wrestling history. We've had legendary confrontations behind the scenes that eventually led to iconic rivalries in matches. But what separates this incident is the sheer brutality and the fact that it was clearly premeditated. Jacob Fatu didn't snap in the heat of the moment he hunted Drew McIntyre like prey. For Jacob Fatu, this return statement solidifies his position as one of the most dangerous performers in the industry. His family legacy, the legendary Anoa'i family that includes Roman Reigns, The Rock, Yokozuna, Rikishi, the Usos, and so many more legends, demands respect. And Fatu just showed the world that disrespect comes with a heavy price. For Drew McIntyre, this creates a fascinating dynamic. The Scottish Warrior has built his career on being fearless, on facing any challenge head-on. But now he's been humiliated, brutalized, and left broken backstage. How does a warrior like McIntyre respond to being dominated so completely? Here's what I'm predicting for the coming weeks. Drew McIntyre will take some time to recover, but he'll return with a vengeance. We might see him training harder, becoming more aggressive, maybe even adopting some of Fatu's ruthless tactics. Jacob Fatu will likely face some kind of punishment from WWE management, another suspension, a fine, maybe even being barred from the building for certain shows. But that will only add fuel to this fire. When these two finally meet in an official match, it's going to be barbaric. We're talking no disqualification, falls count anywhere, maybe even a steel cage match to contain the chaos. This incident also raises questions about backstage culture in WWE. How do you manage superstars with this level of intensity? How do you channel this real-life animosity into compelling television without it becoming dangerous? These are the conversations happening in wrestling circles right now, and it makes this feud even more fascinating from a behind-the-scenes perspective. So let's recap this insanity. Jacob Fatu returned from suspension with one goal: make Drew McIntyre pay for disrespecting him. And he delivered on that promise in the most violent way possible, turning the backstage area into his personal demolition zone. Drew McIntyre is recovering from one of the worst beatdowns of his career, and you know he's planning his revenge. And the WWE Universe is on the edge of their seats waiting to see what happens next in what might be the most personal rivalry of 2025. What do you think, Suplex Rumble family? Was Fatu justified in his actions, or did he take things too far? How should Drew McIntyre respond when he returns? And what kind of match do you want to see between these two warriors? Drop your comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing your perspectives. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our coverage of the most explosive moments in wrestling. I'm your host, and this has been Suplex Rumble, where we celebrate the chaos, the carnage, and the competition that makes professional wrestling the greatest form of entertainment on the planet. Until next time, keep watching, keep discussing, and remember, in wrestling, anything can happen. Peace.